Well, hello and welcome to another WeAreDevelopers Live. I'm in Vienna in the office, and Dan's at home in Bristol, of course. And we've both spent the last week in Berlin for the WeAreDevelopers World Congress. How have you recovered so far, Dan?
Yeah, I'm very well. I'm all right. It does take a couple of days, doesn't it? It's a lot of travel and it's pretty non-stop. I think people who are at the Congress don't always see the the amount of kind of toing and froing that we do and switching to different things. But yeah, it took me a couple of days to come down. It was great. How about you?
Yeah, it's been bonkers. I mean, like, we have the day before, we had the day zero thing. Then I had to do a keynote that I didn't know about. There was another fireside chat with like John Romero and Warren Spector that wasn't planned, that I had to do off the cuff, but it was actually lots of fun to do. I can definitely say I've seen nothing of the event. I basically seen the backstage and helped every speaker out to connect their laptops and get that sorted. And but yeah, it's what I see in social media. People are like super excited about what happened. So I'm conscious that it actually is a huge thing, and for a lot of people, first time on stage, and a lot of people moderated for the first time for us as well. So I want to thank everybody involved. It really worked out well, and it's no rest for the wicked. Now we actually have to start editing the videos, and we have to think about the next year's edition, and we have to think about the editions that we announced, that we're going to India and we're going to America as well. So that one's happening. And if anybody has like money lying around, like, we're happy to take it to pay for all of that stuff. So that's the other bit that we've been thinking about. And today we're going to have a different coffee with developers, a different live session, because we just want to cover a bit of what the Congress was like. And we got two speakers, two friends invited here. One of them is Jack Barber, who is one of the CODE100 challengers. And how are you doing, Jack?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. Glad to be here.
And we got Marco Podien, who's actually giving a talk later on. He's from Algorand. And so your colleague was one of the speakers on stage with the interesting topic of payment required 402. What was that about?
That was like, first of all, hi, thanks for having me, and like congrats on really a great conference last week. I was blown away, and I had to sleep the whole weekend to recover from that. 402 payment required. I will give a quick glimpse also on the recording from the conference at the end of my talk. That is about an HTTP status code that has been reserved for, I think, almost 30 years now. There was always a placeholder in the spec, and no one really knew what to do with that. And now we have a number of projects that are actually trying to pick it up. And from the Algorand Foundation side, we didn't like pick a favorite yet, but we are very interested in like pushing for an open standard and not building another set of silos, because we know the web was a success because of open standards, and that is how it's going to continue in our view.
So Jack, what does Hello Technology do, and how did you get into that whole gig?
Well, I'm a freelance web developer. I've grew up in Whitby. Yeah, it's a small town on the North Yorkshire coast, northeast England, surrounded by the national park. So it takes a lot of effort to get anywhere else in the UK, never mind the rest of the world. But I went away for university, moved back, got married, and started working for a local IT support firm. This was 2007. And started building websites then. And Whitby's kind of behind the times, so it was just starting to be a thing that people wanted. I became freelance in 2010 and worked for myself for over a decade, and then went to work in-house with one of my bigger local clients. But in beginning of last year, 2024, decided I preferred the flexibility of freelance and returned to freelance. So Hello Technology came out of that. But it's really a continuation of almost 20 years now of supporting small businesses, building small business websites and bits of web-based software, bits of digital marketing, bits of general IT support. I've been installing a Ring doorbell for someone this morning. So yeah, I get involved in all kinds of things because of where I am primarily. It's good to be part of the local community and to have skills that people need in all kinds of walks of life. That's me.
Yeah, I talked to a friend of mine here in Vienna yesterday when I landed, and he was at the event as well. I didn't have time for him, so I felt bad. So we went for dinner together, and he does the same. He has lots of like customers, and he has like local government customers as well, which is always a good like main line to have as a freelancer, because these contracts go for like 4 or 5 years, and you're not expected to do anything but bureaucracy the first 3 years, anyways. So it feels like there is. It's bizarre, like when we see all these talks saying like, "Ooh, and we got vibe coding, and we got like agents generating stuff for you." There seems to be still this market of like, I call it happy sizing your company. Like you just do freelance stuff for a few people. Of course, you chase after contracts, and it's bad if somebody drops out. But it seems like if your goals are not to become like the next IT billionaire, but just to have a living, there's still a market out there that cannot be automated away, because it's not based on what you deliver, but actually how you deal with the customer.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. It's constantly frustrating to me that all the talk is around like the next hype cycle of AI, whatever it is, or the next kind of big platform. But actually, at my end of the spectrum, there's still plenty of work to do just building small business websites, keeping people's emails running, helping people with general IT support queries, content management, bits of social media support. There's an awful lot of work to do there, but it's not really something that you hear about, because I guess it's not fashionable. Everyone's kind of looking for more interest in where technology's heading. And perhaps what I do is a bit old-fashioned. I still write all my own HTML and CSS. I've never learnt a JavaScript framework, but it provides a living. I have 5 children, so I have plenty of responsibility, and having kind of a fairly easy to manage business that's spread across a lot of customers. I provide web hosting for about 200 plus websites, and that gives me some residual income. So it works for me, but I'm aware that it's kind of old hat and not necessarily fashionable, but there's still plenty there if people want to have a career as a freelancer.
It's always fun. Like I remember a friend of mine did like if she managed to bag one company that does like a high class yacht, like big ships. And she was like, back in the days, it was like HTML, CSS days. And she's like, so do you think we actually need a shopping basket on that site? And I'm like, I don't think people are going to buy more than one, like, at a time. Like, I think a basket is not probably the solution that you need here. So the scaling to needs, I think, is a very interesting thing to do. And I mean, with 5 kids, that's a side hustle. That's a lot of work anyway. So I think that's not the issue. Marco, about you, like, do you have kids? Or that you know of?
None that I know of. I hope there will be no bad surprises. When you hear some snoring, that's my child. That's a little French bulldog, my princess, that is like falling asleep next to me. And yeah, no kids.
Cool. Well, Dan, you've got yours, and I mean, you moderated this time for the first time CODE100. And I think when I saw you in the site in the backstage room, I think the technical term is shitting bricks. You're basically like, so how was that as an experience for you?
Do you know what? Yeah, it's this weird kind of you're worried about what's going to go wrong, but nothing will. There's a whole team behind us. It's sort of I'm just doing the small part of kind of keeping it running and making sure that we don't have dead air. But there's a whole load of people, the other side of the stage, right at the back, in my ear, telling me kind of what's going on. The thing that made me laugh really was the last thing that Jessie, who was providing a lot of the content creation like support, so we were working together on that, which I happened to mention to her that I was like, look, it's weird, but when I'm really stressed at these conferences, sometimes I'll put on handpan music. Have you ever seen those guys on YouTube that do 8-hour compilations with handpan in the forest? And just as I was about to go on stage, she said, 2 minutes of handpan? What do you think? Basically saying, you look like you need to calm down, And I think you came up to me, Chris, and just said, stop stressing. And I was like, I'm not. And you were like, you look like you are. And I thought, yeah, that's half of it, right? It's kind of just calm down, everything's going to be fine. And really, it was the challengers, Jack, like yourself, that I thought were really going to be kind of, terrified. So I had the easy part, really, but it's still scary.
Mm. I mean, I also kind of did, when you do rehearsal and you actually try things out and you do a lot of videos like we do and you see yourself recorded, you find speech patterns that drive you nuts, that the audience doesn't really realize, but you realize you just said the same thing 5 times, or you used basically, or you used like, this is really easy, or things you shouldn't say, because we're never having scripts. We're just basically running free in these kind of things. And Dan was during rehearsal, he was saying like, put your hands together like 15 times, and he didn't realize it. And we basically, and I told him like, it's a German audience. There's a chance there's a hands together in the audience, a person that's the name hands together, and that just basically threw him completely off. And that was a great thing because then he found his stride after that. So sometimes it's a good thing to get people confused.
Yeah, and just you saying that, like I then wasn't going to say it again because it now is a name, right? So it put me off it. And somebody said to me once, I was presenting something, and I think it was last year, and somebody went, so like that, and I thought, what's that? And they just said, that's an impression of you. You pretty much start and end every sentence with so. And the whole time I was on stage, that was almost all I was hearing. Was every time I would say something, I would da, 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 da. So, and I thought, oh, it's really annoying me now, but what can you do? Just do better next time. That's all I can hope for, really.
So in case you missed it, a lot of people looked at CODE100, of course, because it was on the main stage, and a lot of people tried to guests come in as well. I mean, Jack, you applied as a competitor. How did that feel? Like, how was the whole process for you? Like, did you feel like, did you learn something beforehand? Did you prepare for it? What was going on there?
No, I'd hoped to have some time to kind of get my head back in the puzzles world, but actually I didn't. So I think I'd entered one of the challenges back in the autumn, I think off the back of one of the afternoon conferences, the WeAreDevelopers like online sessions on a particular topic. I can't remember what it was, but at the end of that, you basically put the link out. If you want to have a go at this challenge, here's the data, and here's what you have to do. So I thought, oh, that'll be fun. I'll just have a go. I didn't really expect to get the right answer. I just thought I'll do my best and see what happens. And then got an email saying, congratulations, you've won 2 tickets to WeAreDevelopers because you're in the final of the CODE100. And I thought, oh, okay, not really my thing. But why not? It's good PR. So yeah, then a few weeks ago, I thought I should probably get prepared for this now in some way, like memorize some stuff that I just always Google or ask Stack Overflow or ChatGPT or whatever. And but then I just ran out of time, so I was totally unprepared and just expecting to crash out in the first round, which of course I did. But it was a great experience, great to be part of that event.
Yeah, it's tricky to, I mean, making up these challenges that are independent of programming language is really tough, because I mean, sometimes I come up with something cool and then I realize that Rust has a built-in function for that, or Java or Python, like you have to look at all these different languages, how people approach it. But then I see people on stage having a go at it and forgetting everything as soon as they start hitting the keyboard. Like, I never understood how people get so excited about live coding at like keynotes and stuff like that. It always felt to me like a parlor trick. It's like, okay, cool. I mean, in cloud space, it was the best. Like, now I get like 5,000 servers set up in 15 seconds. And you're like, your architecture is really screwed if you need 5,000 servers in 15 seconds. Then there's something really wrong with your setup. It always felt like a being like, oh my God, he can do live coding. And then like you ask the audience, like, and what have you remembered of that? Can you repeat it now? And people are like, no, but how cool is he? And I'm like, to me, being on stage is not being cool. To me, being on stage is giving you something to impress your boss with so you get a ticket for the next conference. Like, I want you to take something away from it rather than me proving my point that I can do something live and amazing on stage. It always felt like a weird flex for people to aspire to. And I mean, in the past, I've done scripts for like my editor that I just copied and pasted a script in, and it looks like I'm coding it. So I basically had like an animation of the thing, and I was pretending to type, and people like, wow, that's amazing. It doesn't make a single error. So all these YouTube videos, all these things are faked. Like nobody does that. Nobody writes code with without an error in the first time, except for Marco, right?
No, I actually find it more charming to sprinkle in some errors. And you actually like put me in a very bad situation, because I am going to do some small live coding during my presentation. But it's actually just to show, like, to give you something to show people how easy it is to use that stuff and to get started experimenting. I don't want to show how cool I am, because I didn't build any of that, but I want to show how easy it is to use.
But you're at home, so it's much more relaxed. I mean, the thing on like with a desktop on screen, and like, yeah, it feels very interesting. And the amount of like errors you can make as well. I remember one time I saw a person that copied and pasted a password into a plain text field in front of 5,000 people. You know, because he just focused on the wrong field before he did a paste. And yeah, I mean, you don't have time to change your password or to lock your account. So I had a friend of his do it for him backstage. So basically, before like 5,000 people use your account, and that was not fun. Yeah. So let's go through that. First of all, thanks for Algorand for actually being here. So we have a banner here. Oh, banners are cool, isn't it? Like that's like...
Yeah. What's the specifications on that? Is it 468 by, what was it, 468 by 60?
This is bigger. This is not an official banner size, but it's great that we have, and I'm looking forward to your talk. Everything we've done with you so far was good fun, and I love that Algorand is like doing blockchain stuff, but actually solves the real world problems, as it says on that thing. And that's not hot air. It's basically every time I talk to you, I gave you a hard time about like blockchain, what do we do about it? And you came up with things that are actually necessary these days, and that's really fun to do. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to come on that. But let's go to CODE100 and the challenges that we had right now. So the first round was pseudocode questions, and Dan, you're responsible for that and made people's life living hell. So this one here, before we go through it, I mean, depending on how we go ahead with CODE100, I want to ditch the pseudocode round because I don't understand the need for pseudocode ever anymore. I mean, I understand that when we actually teach people the ideas of programming, we use pseudocode so they're not getting stuck in like syntax or like opportunities that certain languages have. But it feels to me such a weird, non-connected thing to the real world. I mean, when it comes to large architectures, of course, it's a different thing, but then you don't use pseudocode, but you use some like IDL, or you use I mean, I remember using UML for things like that. You structure the bit. But I don't understand the need anymore for pseudocode, and I probably would walk out of interviews when people give me a pseudocode question there. What is your take on that?
Zach, Marco, over to you. I'd love to just know your views on it, because we've debated this a lot, and we'll come back to me, but go for it, guys.
I have actually. Many years ago, the idea was to have people not remember specifics of the programming language and get nervous around that. I have to admit, I think back then it was an interview for a PHP position, and we all might remember that there's like a lot of quirks in that language, like positioning of array, function parameters and these things, and we really wanted to take the stress out. So we had people do that on the whiteboard. Doing in pseudocode, like sometimes close to the actual programming language, but like not having to remember those details is easier sometimes.
Yeah, I can see there is value in using pseudocode. I think when I'm kind of writing program scripts to do things, I'll often sketch out an idea on paper, even that's a kind of a flow of how the data is manipulated through the function or whatever, and I'm not writing it in any particular language. I'm just kind of structuring it in a way that I understand what I'm aiming for, and I think it can be helpful just to have a kind of non-language specific way of understanding that, especially if you're trying to explain that kind of thing to someone else, more like a flow diagram, that kind of structure. But yeah, I think in this instance, actually, most people would understand the syntax of a JavaScript function or something similar, wouldn't they? So maybe in reality, most developers who are interested in being part of CODE100 would have some understanding of an actual language, and whether it was JavaScript or I mean, my preference would be PHP, but I know that people look down their nose at PHP, forgetting that most of the internet runs on PHP. But yeah, I think horses for courses, depends on the situation.
It also cleaned up a lot. Like PHP is not as random as it used to be. Like the needle haystack order is quite common now in every function, rather than or allows for both. And I mean, there's a lot of like lenience in PHP, but it's also, you can write amazing things in it. I mean, I wrote yahoo.com in it. So like it does scale to the right spot if you do it the right way. But yeah, the idea of like learning a skill of a programmer by showing them pseudocode and ask them what it does. Yeah, it's still valid to a degree, but I think it's like it's further down the line, I guess. But the other problem is like it seems to be a dead skill, because so many people drop out at the pseudocode round because they don't know how it's done. So they just mash 104 and hope that it's like a 25% chance that they got the right thing going. So Dan, this function is number valid. The answer is 243.
Yeah,
so
it's essentially just checking which of those options is a power of 3. So 3 by 3 by 3 by 3. 3 by 3 by 3 by 3. I think that's enough threes, maybe one more, is 243. So that's effectively all it's doing. I mean, just on the idea of pseudocode, you know, we've talked about it a lot as sometimes when you have like an exam in school, it would feel a bit like how I feel about pseudocode, where it wasn't necessarily testing your actual knowledge. It was testing your ability to remember things. And it feels a little bit like that with pseudocode, where the people that do well in this round are able to sort of roughly figure it out and convert it into their chosen language in their head. And then they sort of take a stab in the dark. You know, they say, I've sort of got an idea of what the function's doing, so I'm going to go with that answer because it feels correct. And that's a very woolly way of actually testing somebody's knowledge. I don't think it really does that. The other thing is, a little secret for you, is on all of those code pens, I'm going to lift back the curtain a little bit. We write it in JavaScript and convert it back to pseudocode, you know? So we might as well just leave it in JavaScript. It's just, it's about that kind of language agnostic, you know? Somebody said to me though, vibe coding is going to mean that we actually need pseudocode more because we're going to need syntax less. Their argument was, we're not going to need to learn necessarily the syntax in a kind of technical way. We just need to get an overview of what a function might do. To me, that's not necessarily pseudocode, though.
Yeah, that's a flawed argument, because pseudocode itself has syntax that makes no sense. Like, that's why we actually converted with ChatGPT from JavaScript to pseudocode. So I mean, what they're really saying is what a lot of like AI first people are saying is like writing specs is more important than the code. And pseudocode is already code, although it's pseudo. So the spec is the more interesting one. So spec writing will become a more interesting skill for junior developers in the near future, and I think that's something that normally you only had to face once you became lead engineer or like even architect. Before that, you never touched it. You just basically, I mean, Jack, you're probably not going to write a spec for all your stuff before you code it. I started writing documentation of my stuff before I write the functions, and I find a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and I thought would be a good feature, but I actually don't have to do. So if you feel like this documentation seems redundant, then probably the functionality is redundant too. So that's a weird way of doing that. But okay, next function count nums. What will return when the input is that?
Easy, that one. So a complete sort of red herring, overcomplicated for the sake of being overcomplicated, because really for each n in nums, it's basically check if it's a 1. If it is, add it to the count. So we're just going to get to now I'm wondering if because we're counting at 0, if we add 1, yeah, we are. Okay, I just want to double check there my sort of 0 indexing. I thought maybe we'll end up with 1 actually. But yeah, essentially it's just how many ones in the array. So
Yeah.
again, it's overcomplicated. Probably would have been easier if it's syntax to actually understand what's happening, right?
Well, that's, I mean, is it just us, or if your challenge is to come up with pseudocode, do we come with totally asinine solutions? Like, when would you need an array that only filters out the ones?
The ones, yeah. This is always a discussion we have, though, isn't it? It's because we've gone sometimes so obscure. There was even one we looked at on the live show where it was almost trying to do a real world, kind of example where it was like an investment sort of tracker almost, where every month it would add an amount to the kind of total investment amount, and it was based on like the number of the month. Now that's the bit you never do, right? You're not going to go, oh, this is zero indexed. January is month 0, so I'm not adding anything. So it's even when we try and make a real world application for it, it's kind of you wouldn't really do that in the real world. I think that's the tricky part.
Given the function, which string will return true? What's going on there?
It's just looking at which of those strings has a duplicate character. So notebook has 2 O's or 3 O's. So therefore it's the one. Again, that was more of a somebody is just going to pick that immediately, because remember, these rounds are done on accuracy and speed. And so I thought somebody is just going to go the odd one out, and they're going to click notebook without really even looking at the function. But I think everybody got that one. I think that was 100% of the competitors got that one. Jack, you nodded, so I'm guessing. Was your logic? Did you look at the function or just go double O notebook?
I just saw that line, if character in scene, then return true, and thought, oh yeah, it's looking for duplicates of some kind, and then yeah, the obvious answer then is notebook.
Nice.
Yeah. We can basically split and check if the set is the same as the array. That could be a one-liner. Like, it's pretty interesting. With input will return hello. This was kind of a predicting what's going to come later, right?
Yes, yeah. So again, the answer kind of sounds quite complicated, but you can see there the answer being the fourth one, as it's going to return each of the numbers, and it's going to -1 and then double them. So essentially, instead of getting 8, we're going to get we would have 16. And then that's our position of the letter. So you essentially can work backwards, and just if you start with 16, half it, and you get to letter number 8. But the little trick in there is the 0 indexing. So some people would sort of count the letters and go H is, and they would be 1 out because they would just forget that it's 0 indexed. So it's really just giving you a straightforward kind of index position of each of the letters in the alphabet, but just messing with it slightly to trick you.
Well, it was the timesing the timesing by 2 that got me, because I put A, so I got the 0 index thing, but then I missed the fact that there was that index floor n over 2. I think that must be the bit that like is doubling the index of the letter, isn't it? Because
it's not doubling it; it's dividing
divide.
it.
Yeah.
Isn't that a bug?
That looks like it might be, because that should be a star instead of a divide. Yeah. Let me see if this is my mistake here, and let me see, or we're on the JavaScript one. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, it is. It is my mistake. My apologies. Yes, that should be a divide. Let me check it though. I'm gonna run this. It shouldn't be a divide, rather. Ah, there you go.
I might have made it into the final if that
you're a winner.
If that question
You're the
was
winner
correct.
Yeah.
Terms and
No, you
conditions
wouldn't,
apply.
because if it's divided by 2, it would be 4, not 8.
Yeah, we go the other way. Yeah.
So the right answer was not 1. The right answer would not be there. So this was a complete fail. Excellent. Okay.
We
What
had
would
a
this
couple of these little bugs, didn't we?
5, 8, 10.
The sum of the even numbers, so it just ignores the 5.
Oh, so modulo 2 equals 0. I got you onto modulo, right? Like you were just like, what the hell is it about? And I showed you how powerful modulo is. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and what I am liking is it's actually the correct answer this time, because I was thinking we were going to have a repeat of the last one. But yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's one, again, when you actually see the JavaScript function, which is on the code pen, looks far more complicated than it is, but really is not that complicated. It's just going to ignore the 5 because it's not divisible by 2, so it ignores it and then adds them together. So there's probably more real world application in that somewhere. I don't know what it would be, but something as simple as that, just like ignore even numbers and add them. somebody's going to be watching this going, that'd be useful for this, hopefully.
Yeah, my favorite trick about modulo is looping through arrays. Like if you actually loop through an array and you want to get started again, like you do a carousel, for example, you just do a modulo to the length of the array, which means that if it's bigger than the end of the array, it goes back to 0 automatically. So that's a very simple way, not having to have like nested if statements to go through an array and then go back to the 0 index, because the modulo will automatically render the 0 for you. So that's a very, very cool little trick.
Talking of if statements, we'll talk about that later on when we get to the final round. But yeah, they made an appearance.
So the pair programming round, X-Men United, the challenge of to turn this array of numbers into the X-Men logo. Marco, how would you have approached that?
Oh God, you put me on the spot. So I would try to find a pattern in here. I have no idea, to be honest.
There's some hints. There's some hints. Think in zeros and ones. 8 is a nice number for characters to work with, and mirroring is fun. Those were the hints that I sent people.
Can you scroll down a bit for the input again? No, up, I mean. Okay.
Yeah.
The mirroring part jumped out to me at that point. I don't know, that seemed like the most useful clue. I don't know if that helps at all. But it seems like you have to do half of the work.
Check anything on your side, how you would approach that?
No, I didn't. Well, no one actually got it right, did they? Within the time limit, and there were a few of us at the back of the hall chatting through it as it was being done, and I don't think anyone actually got it.
I think I have it. So those are basically, you take only half of it, and that's the binary representation of each number, and then for each 0 it's black, and for each 1 it's red, and then you just flip it around. Okay.
Yeah. So these 8 characters here are actually the 3 in binary. So you got like the 1 and the 2, and it's 8 characters in total. And then all you have to do is mirror those. And that one is basically that first square here is those numbers in binary. And that's all you had to do. So basically my solution is basically you go through the pixels map row, you split it, and then you reverse it and join it. That's basically the joining thing. But turning it into binary is basically row to string 0. So basically, you just basically have a 2 indexed a binary. To 16 would be hexadecimal. To string 10 would be just a normal decimal, and then you pad start them, and that's basically how you get the first round thing. And then you basically you map, you go through the map, you split it and join it. So that one gives you the 16 characters. And then you do the concat with the other one with the reverse of the array, and then you replace all the 0s and 1s with the emoji, and that's basically it. This is what all this was done. This goes back to like writing sprites on like 8-bit computers, where you actually had to paint them on like checkboards and basically turn them into binary, and then the data set would be decimal. So it was the other way around. So you had to go from binary to decimal. And then you put that up. That was one of the first challenges I've ever written, because originally it was 4 different circles that intersected, because we wanted to get it sponsored by a certain company, which never wanted to sponsor it. So basically, and then I did a Twilio one, which had the 4 buttons in there, but they didn't have time this year to sponsor or do something with it as well. But there are like several solutions for that on the GitHub later on as well. The basic idea was to turn it into binary and then flip it around. And it's not that hard if you think about it in 0s and 1s. The bigger thing that cracked me up to no end is that on the machines on the live stage, people had the README file that had this thing in there. So all they could have done is copy this, paste it, put a print command around it, and win the competition.
So
I did wonder afterwards if someone could have just just typed it out as emojis, and that would have been faster than writing the code if you didn't understand.
Well, one of the groups tried that and did that, and for some reason they put random if statements around it, like if it's 3, return this, and not realize like if you're already painting it, you might as well just print the thing out and send it to the API. You know, like that was the most obviously cheatable challenge we've ever done, and nobody found the cheat. It was just interesting to see.
Do you know what, though? I think, Chris, that says so much about, we talked about it, didn't we, about how when we watch the challenges on stage at CODE100, everybody does the same thing of almost like sitting back and digesting it and reading it and thinking and sort of going through step by step. And nobody writes code for about half the round because everybody's thinking and kind of discussing with their pair. But then once they do decide on the option that they want to take, it's almost tunnel vision. That if they get stuck along the way, there's almost that what's that sort of lost time fallacy, you know, where it's like a sunk cost, where it's like, well, I've put 3 minutes into it, I'm not going back now. And actually, if one person had just stepped back and said copy and paste, then they win. But everyone had that tunnel vision, so it's fascinating for us to watch. And being on stage, I almost wanted to say to somebody like, "Come on, see," you know. but yeah.
Then we went to the tiebreaker round where we asked about the page visibility API. And yeah, the page visibility API detects if a tab is active or not, and none of the other things. And I thought the other things sounded reasonable enough for people to maybe get trapped. And I think a few people got it wrong. But it's a really cool API. I mean, you can do so many cool things with it. I mean, I've seen people put like other messages in the title bar when the page is not active rather than when it's active. You can, I mean, it's also a thing opportunity for stopping animations, which browsers do automatically now. But in the past, it was a good thing for you to do using the page visibility API. So I was happy that people got that in quite quickly. Then we had quiz round questions. The first one is 1, 10, 1, 1, 100, 101, and that goes back to it. That's basically counting in binary. So it's like 1, 2, 4, so and so forth. Basically, that I guess most of the people got it right as well. So it's counting in binary, but yeah, I guess people don't count in binary anymore. Those times are over. That one got people really, really thrown, and I think that's something for you, Jack. How is the text aligned in HTML?
I did get that one right. I mean, I wasn't in this round, so I wasn't actually, there was no pressure on me at this point. But I just saw that display flex and then the typo in the justify content equals center. So disregarded that one and just thought display flex resets everything back to normal, as it were. So then it would be left aligned.
Yeah, so the align center is completely overwritten because it's HTML3.2 by the style element already, and then text align right. Display flex puts it back to overwrites text align, and justify content is basically a typo. So that's why you lint your stuff. That's why you have an editor that flags up HTML errors as well. There's people, I think 5 people disagreed with me, and then I put it in the browser and showed them that it actually is that thing. What does CSRF stand for? Cascading Style React Foundation, Complete Security Review Fatigue. I like that one a lot. But cross-site requirement files and cross-site request forgery. And the last one is, of course, the answer. Which one is not a native CSS function? Calc, crossfade, random, and tan. And people were very, very annoyed about this because random is the wrong one. Because crossfade was like 2 weeks old at that time. And only works in Safari at the moment, but it is in there. It's quite fascinating how CSS becomes more and more of a proper, well, not proper, but a fully fledged programming language with like sine, cosine, and all the bits and bobs in there. It's actually tough to keep up to actually know what new CSS features are coming out there. Marco, do you even bother anymore, or is it just like you look up things when you get stuck?
I do. Like, I'm a backend developer by training, but every now and then I come back and relearn front-end stuff. And I actually make this like a quarterly thing by now. And I check state of CSS, all the new stuff, couple of YouTube geniuses, and I'm like shocked every time how far this has come. Like, animations are super straightforward with like super granular keyframe control. And I just get lost for a couple of days in pure CSS every now and then.
Cool. This one was a mistake as well. So, and this is on me, I guess. So I asked how many of the following are W3C standards and proposals. And I said it like this. I said answer is 3 of them, voice XML, EPUB, and SVG. But the person who set up the Slido was basically giving 3 as the right answer. So the everybody did wrong on that line because we set up Slido wrongly. But yeah, there's also no way of actually doing that. So the other way would have been like 1, 2, 5 as options and say like it's 1, it's 2, or 3. Voice XML, nobody ever has done anything with, I think. But it's a standard. It's like one of those payment required 402 thing that basically it's there, but we don't know. EPUB, of course, is used for books, and SVG, of course, is a massive standard. Also has animation built in, which a lot of people don't use. JSX, of course, is not. VML was a Microsoft thing that was like SVG, but Microsoft only, Internet Explorer only, and had a different syntax as well. SVG fascinates me. It's so powerful, but also so cryptic when you take a look at it. Trying to debug it by hand and understanding what that SVG is doing at the moment is quite a challenge. But these are just obviously standards. The other ones are just by random companies. Which of the following is not a security acronym? Cross-site scripting, SQLite spoofing, man-in-the-middle attack, SQL injection, and slop squatting. SQLite spoofing was the wrong answer, also the right answer to choose. Slop squatting people challenged me on, but slop squatting is actually a thing. What slop squatting is if you have a code agent, an AI co-pilot or something, and it starts hallucinating npm packages that don't exist. And malware developers actually look at those things that don't exist and create malware with those names. So it's basically AI slop and squatting on the name of the thing, much like domain squatting is when you actually buy a domain that has a typo in it, that's like Poopel, for example, or instead of PayPal, and people would actually buy that one, so in the hope that people go there and then show them a fake PayPal account. So SQLite spoofing, not so much yet. What is not an accessibility requirement for online products? And that was basically me going through WCAG for the accessibility AI day. And yeah, the only one is bad. Links must only be referenced once. Makes no sense, of course, but you should not have different words linking to the same page. That's confusing for screen readers. But everything else is necessary. Image must have alternative text. Animations must be possible to control, like stopped and started. Videos need captions. Nothing should flash more than 3 times a second. Content should be 400% zoomable. And text should have enough contrast to be readable. So these are all the things you have to do. And most of the time, we just hope the machine does it for us, I guess. So how's it with you and customers, Jack? Like, do they care about accessibility? Or do they care about being sued?
Most of them don't really think about it. A few years ago, I worked on a local government project with a local parish council, and the guy, one of the councillors, had actually just completed a PhD in website accessibility, and I got to know him a bit during his course because he put like a human readable condensed version of the guidelines together that was really helpful for people like me who wanted like a quick cheat sheet to make sure that what they'd built was adhering to the guidelines as they were back then. It was a few years ago, but I think that project was really helpful because it just helped me to get my head around what I needed to be doing to ensure that sites were accessible, even if people hadn't asked me to build an accessible website. Most of my clients won't be aware that that's a thing that, you know, that they should be asking for or making sure that their site is. But obviously it's important, and it's one of the things that's annoyed me a bit over the years about like the talks that people go to, the things that are fashionable. It used to be that website accessibility was the talk that people wouldn't go to. It was like the thing that everyone knew they should be caring about, but no one wanted to hear about directly. And this last week at the conference, it felt like the kind of ethical questions around AI is becoming the new version of that. I'm getting a bit off topic now, but you know, that everyone knows they should be paying attention to, because this new technology is coming and it's going to impact everyone. But actually, the ethics and AI talks that I went to were quite poorly attended. Whereas the kind of really practical stuff, this is how you build a chatbot, this is how you use AI in your workflow kind of thing, people were really keen to go to. So yeah, I just wonder if that's going to be a thing that actually in a few years' time, it'll be a bit like it is now, and everyone realised that they should have been building accessible websites all along. And in the same way, we'll realise that we should have been building ethical AI all along, and we haven't done, and we're kind of too far down the track to turn it around. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, I like that tangent, because it's basically, yeah, it's we had this AI and accessibility day, and the videos are out. We're going to publish them bit by bit now as well, and it was very exciting to see how the needs of people with disabilities can actually foster innovation incredibly, like, because there's a real need. I mean, my favorite was these smart glasses that people Ray-Ban and Meta had, and I'm like, okay, influencers and annoying people, and like, I don't know, but so many people that are blind are using those, because then they can keep their mobile phone in their pocket and just look at things and get them described to them. So, you know, like, you go to a restaurant as a non-sighted person with one of those smart glasses on, you look at the menu and it reads out the menu to you, rather than you as a non-sighted person having to point your mobile phone in the general direction where you think the text is. So it actually is, you know, you hold something and you look at it. It's much easier for them to do as well. So I found that really interesting. I think the ethical bit and the making things accessible and easy to understand is also something with Marco, I guess you have to deal with as well. Like, I mean, blockchain and being wedged in together with crypto bros and everything got like a bad reputation over the years of like horrible people wanting to make a quick amount of money. Like, how do you feel? How do you get people to listen to the more like, here's what to do with it and not be terrible kind of message? Do you still get asked a lot about this? Is the hype over? How do you work with that?
I will actually get into all of those things in the talk, and I can already give a spoiler that the hype is over, but like, following the Gartner hype cycle, I will show, like, for the people who don't know what that is, I will show that. That doesn't mean that the show is over, right? So it's actually time to mature these technologies, and most people we talk to at the conference have a very open ear. They are aware that there were scams, there's still scams, but regulation is catching up, and the whole crypto like industry, which is like a collection of a number of technologies, is actually maturing and reaching productive use cases. And as you mentioned, like, we are of the opinion that that a blockchain is not a solution for everything, which is the message that people came across with in the past. So we have a bunch of niche use cases where a blockchain is like a fantastic fit, but definitely not for everything. And at least at the conference, sometimes it's a bit different. It was not too hard to tell people about the serious use cases without them like asking about the not so serious use cases.
Cool. All right, final code challenge, cracking the code. Jack, did you take a look at that, and what did you think?
I did take a look. I was trying to work it out from the back, but I couldn't see it clearly enough to make proper sense of it. But I picked up there was a clue somewhere that said something about, maybe it's slightly further down, I don't know if you've got the whole thing there, but basically the numbers, the letters aren't important. Some hints, there we go. Letters in the encryption don't actually do much, which I took to mean disregard all the letters immediately, which would have got me some way, but then I couldn't actually read what the numbers were in the phrase to try and crack the code. But the guy I was sat next to, I've forgotten his name now, but we were chatting it through, and he did solve it. I mean, at least in his head. But the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog was the key that unlocks the code, in that the positions of the letters correlate to the letters in the phrase. But I actually don't know what the answer is. What is the phrase that was hidden?
Well, the thing is, basically, that's what it does. Like, get rid of all the letters in there that don't make anything, and then take the numbers. And the index of that sentence is then what it means. So in this case, test would be H0 to 1, 2I to 4Q0. So you can see like the H and the Q doesn't mean anything, and 0 is 0 index, the first T of the solution key, so to say. And this is a very old idea. Like people use that normally with like books, like people in prison, for example, they would take the sermon on Sunday, that part of the Bible, and every prisoner would get a free Bible, would be then the key phrase. So the first paragraph, you would say like, okay, then you send messages to each other, 1, 7, 2, 5, and that would be like the first word in a paragraph, the 8th word in the paragraph, and so on and so forth. So people have been using that since Napoleonic times to actually encrypt things. And it's actually pretty hard to crack, because the more, because the more you actually, the longer that sentence get, and when you not only use the first index, but also every index, like you could, for example, O could be now this index here, or it could be the later index in the one as well. So you can actually have like 3 positives there, and it becomes like mathematically, it becomes more and more complex to actually decode that thing. And every single code assistant failed doing it. Like I used Grok, I used Copilot, I used Claude. Because for some reason, the first thing all of them did was take the key sentence and get rid of the spaces. And that way they messed up the index numbers. So, and it was really interesting to see. And yeah, the winner, Nimrod Core, he actually managed to solve it as well. Whereas the other person on the other thing was just looking up index in Google, because I don't know, it was Java. Java doesn't do it. I also found out the interesting bit in JavaScript is that you can just use a string and the brackets notation, so you don't even need to use a split. So if you have a string and you say string 3, it's the second character in the string. Like that automatically works in PHP as well. So that's basically this is the solution that I came up with, and I'm putting together an npm module actually to decrypt and encrypt in that fashion to just play with as well. You split over A to Z, and then you map it and return the char and the index of the main string, and you push it out again. And the final solution was never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to hurt you. So I was rolling the whole audience with that thing. And it was actually quite fun to do. The tiebreaker round we didn't need, but maybe, let's try it out on you, like without showing the answer cleverly. Like, no. Okay. So function is WeAreDevelopers equals new regular expression, and this is the regular expression. Return test if it's a string. Which one is the correct one?
You think you'll get the right one.
Be the second one, no? Like the 2 slashes already give it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even have to look at the numbers.
All right.
Yeah, it's basically you just check for the 2 slashes and that one, and the rest is then could be any 20,092, so it could be 20,000 to 2099, basically. It's the test. Okay, audience rounds. Given the following HTML ID test 0, let's do that smaller again. How many of the following do return an error?
I answered number 2, but I wasn't sure, and apparently it was right, but I'm not sure why.
I would also say number 2 returns an error because the variable probably cannot start with a number or something like that.
Exactly. That is always my biggest problem, that like I don't know, I think it was Internet Explorer that came up with it, that if you put an ID on an element, it becomes a global JavaScript variable, which is of course also a security problem, because you can inject IDs with XSS payloads and all kind of stuff. And CSS can start with a 1, whereas like a JavaScript variable cannot start with a 1. Interesting thing is, though, that actually the query selector also with the hash works with it, and get element by ID also works with it. And if you want to use JavaScript, you have to use the bracket notation, and then you can read these invalid IDs as well. So the browser generates a global JavaScript variable that is in an invalid syntax. But as a lookup key in an array, it's okay. It's okay again. JavaScript, hey?
Yeah.
This was another egg on our face moment. Audience round 2. What is AGI? Augmented Graphics Interface, Artificial Generated Intelligence, a Generalist Indian, or Artificial General Intelligence? The answer is, of course, 4. But the generalist Indian was a troll of mine about the Builder AI thing, where it turned out that $1 billion company turned out to be like 700 people in India answering questions as if they are a chatbot. So yeah, that backfired to a degree, but it was good fun because people loved to joke about it, so that was good. Next in the sequence was 8115491, and the answer is that's the numbers 1 or 12 in alphabetical order. So if you say like 8 starts with E, 11 starts with E, 5 starts with F, 4 starts with F, 9 starts with N, 1 starts with O. So it's basically in alphabetical order. So the next one would be actually 7, because that's the S that comes after O. We had a challenge like that some time ago, where you were asked to sort an array in different languages, how they actually pronounce it. And that was a fun little thing to do as well, because we don't have any lives. Anyways, this was CODE100, and we had a winner, and I guess it was fun for everybody involved. And Dan had his moment in the sun moderating it, and we realized we should do better in checking these things before we put them live, because there was a few errors in there that are actually interesting to see. I'm just seeing in your Algorand banner here, what is actually that thing at the end here? You've got like a quote in there?
That is a designer decision.
Okay.
That's pure aesthetics. No hidden meaning, as far as I know.
Fair enough then. I guess that is it from this WeAreDevelopers Live CODE100 show. It was fun talking to all of you. Jack, thanks very much for coming around. Dan, as always, stick around probably as well. Jack, of course, you're welcome to stick around as well to see what Marco has to say. And I will then, if you start sharing you did share a screen already. If you're ready and ready to rock, then we can say thanks very much. This was WeAreDevelopers Live for today. And we're going to show a final video, and then we're going to shift over to Marco to give his talk.